In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. Um, I'll be honest, I don't know why every time we need to do a talk about life purpose, vision setting, and all of that, I seem to be the one doing it. I fake it. But what we're going to go through is stuff that I've personally done before. Bits of it worked for me, bits of it didn't. But I hope for the majority, it translates into actions that we can take in. We'll start off with the title. Most of you might know what 23andMe is. And it's not working. Yep, sorry, a bit small, but hopefully it'll be explained. I'm going to stand to the side a bit. Sorry, media team. What you can see here is, who knows 23andMe? One person. Two people? So 4 people. Cool. 23andMe is the kind of genetics testing where you spit in a tube, they go send it away, put it in the lab, and figure out what your ancestry is, where you came from, who your parents' genetics are, whatever. And then it can help you identify genetic markers that are predisposing you to certain diseases or certain allergies or whatever. So by looking back and doing a retrospective or a deep dive into our past, we can identify how we want to go into the future. Should I change my diet? Do I need to be aware of certain things about my culture, my identity, my ethnicity? Because those things impact us. And similarly, what we're doing here is we're doing a 26andMe. We're going in and looking at the year that's gone past, the 20 few odd years that we've lived or plus, and then where we want to take them into next year, and who do I want to become next year, or what do I want to achieve next year and following years. So we need to look back to move forward, as it says. We need to understand our past, our beliefs, our heritage, our makeup, and then understand the present impact it has on us. Some of the actions that we've made have led us to be anxious. Some of the actions that we've done historically have led us to be kind of content, complacent, confused, whatever. So understanding the past, understanding the impact on the present, and then ultimately allowing us to move forward into what we need to do or what we would like to do. I'm going to open up for questions as we go along. I want this to be somewhat interactive. So any questions around this? Sorry, this is going to come very corporate and how I do stuff at work. So if you don't like it, don't come and ever work with me. But any questions around the whole process that we're going to go on before I kind of go into the practicalities and what we need to start vision setting on? I will always take silence as a no. Cool. So this concept is around the blueprint of our life. And as you may have seen on the title page, defining my mission, vision, and purpose, I've labeled it MVP. Most sport people know what MVP is. It's a generic term. But in our lives, we need an MVP. We need to have our mission, as in what am I doing, and the daily activities that I am doing around it. My vision is where I want to be in the future, and why do I want to be there comes from my purpose. So by linking the 3, I'm able to set a plan for my life, both academically, spiritually, financially, socially, and relationally. All of this stuff transcends just one aspect of our lives and can be applied to everything that we do. So by having a mission, vision, purpose, I can then align my values, set goals, and ultimately have a strategy of how I want to achieve all of this. So there's a lot of concepts and a lot of terms. A lot of people use them interchangeably. People use vision and mission as synonymous, as in meaning the same thing. Technically, they are slightly different. Mission is what am I doing? Vision is where am I going? So we need to have that context shift. But ultimately, with all of these kind of themes and approaches, we're able to plan better and where we want to be. So by having those frameworks of mission, vision, purpose, goals, strategy, and values, It's the framework that we align our life in. Everything that we do, everything that we're going to do has to be rooted in those 6 or around those 6, I would say. So it's the bedrock. So if I don't have values, what am I purposing in my life? Because if I don't have values, what are my morals? What are my ethics? I can do anything, but are those things beneficial for me? Do they need to be in my life, or should I be cutting them out and stepping away from certain things? Where do my boundaries lie in my values and my morals? Same thing with the goals. I need to be clear in setting my goals. Most corporate people, or most people who've done a bit of kind of work, have heard of the SMART technique, where when you're setting a goal or an objective, it has to be specific, it has to be measurable, something that is achievable in your day-to-day life, has to be relevant to you and not to someone else, and has to be time-bound. I have to have an end milestone. I can't leave it open-ended and think it's going to be happening whenever. Then it's not an objective. Everything that I need to do in my life has to be restricted, focused, so then I'm able to achieve it. If I leave it open-ended, then I'll never do it. Case in point, I've had this book on my desk that I said I'm going to read. It sat there for 5 years. I haven't set a goal. I haven't set a timeline saying, no, I need to read this by the end of the year because I want to move on to the next book or the next book in the series or whatever. So if I'm not doing it and I'm not setting an end point, then I can be so loose and never actually end up achieving. And ultimately, the strategy links in the goals and the values and puts that longer term kind of wrapper around it. A series of goals becomes the strategy. So the way you look at it from chess is one example that they often use. The strategy in chess is obviously to win and to take your opponent's king. How you do that, obviously you're trying to achieve killing or taking the opponent's pawns, bishops, rooks, castles, whatever. So each of those attacks, each of those moves is a goal. I need to move to this square to take that person, but it's wrapped up in the strategy of I am playing this long-term game trying to win chess. That's the day-to-day life as well. What actions, what goals am I doing in my day-to-day life that allow me to put a 5-year strategy plan or a vision plan or a mission statement? As you can see, all of these are synonymous and all of these can be changed around. Why do I need to do this? If we have clarity in what I'm trying to achieve, if I have clarity in what I want to do and where I want to be, then I won't say anxiety is eliminated, but I know with certainty to a degree, where am I going? I'm not lost, I'm not confused. And the fear element starts dropping down because I'm not unsure. I know that I'm working to something for a specific purpose, in a specific framework and timeline, so I'm certain I have a plan. It allows me to make decisions faster. How many of us are sometimes overwhelmed with choice and options that to make a simple decision becomes so hard? Another example, last week or the week before, I was coming back from work, wanted to eat something. Ended up not eating because I didn't know what I wanted to eat. I was in the shopping center, so I park at Westfield Shepherd's Bush when I'm going into work, and coming back, that shopping center has 50 or so different restaurants. Okay, do I want Thai? Do I want pizza? Do I want a burger? Do I want sushi? No, I had sushi for lunch. What do I want? The overwhelming choice factor sometimes prevents us or inhibits us from making decisions. So if I'm in my life, have a framework that I'm working within, I know my morals, I know my goals, then decision making becomes quicker, becomes easier, and then I'm able just to live rather than always stuck in should I, shouldn't I, could I, won't I, whatever. I'm always able to make a decision and move with it. Why do I need to do this? Again, reduces anxiety. What is the impact? It allows me to align myself with a bigger purpose. By doing all of this stuff, I'm no longer floating in life haphazardly. I'm no longer just coasting. I have a direction. I have a goal that I want to do. Ultimately, our goal that we are seeking is salvation, that we are seeking sanctification and being united with Christ in eternity in the kingdom of heaven. That should be our ultimate vision. How we can get there is obviously multiple different steps, different routes. But if I know that I've got this plan and this approach, then the impact has a huge effect on my life. Because everything that I do is to get me to something rather than just being so casual. And does it work? Like I said, some of the techniques that we'll go through do, some of them may not. There will be a chance to reevaluate and reassess on a frequent basis. So it might not work today, but it may work in the future. What works for me doesn't necessarily need to work for you guys. So it's very much, I've got 3 or 4 techniques that we'll come onto and explaining the differences. So all of this then helps us, what is it not moving? Cool. Moving into our identity. As you can see very briefly, the 4 pillars of identity. We have, who am I? What do I stand for? What am I doing? And where am I heading? As you can see, all of this is rooted, and we can root this in our spiritual life. Who am I? I'm a child of God. I'm a child of Christ. What I stand for, Christian morals and ethics, love above all, service, kindness, humility, patience. What am I doing? How am I living the gospel in my day-to-day life? And where am I heading? Hopefully, eternity in the kingdom. I can take this into my corporate life. I can take it into my relationship life. All of these things are interchangeable, but we need to have a plan. I'm not saying that I've mastered it. Far from it. I'm great at hiding, great at faking it. So what you see is not the reality, but hopefully do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. So purpose, we're going to come on to a bit of the detailed definitions. So purpose, why am I here? It defines our existence. It defines the value and the essence of life. 3 verses that I think are relevant. First one, Matthew 22, verses 37 to 40. You shall love the Lord with all your heart. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. So our purpose is love. In everything that we do, love needs to be centered and central to it. Then in 2 Timothy 4, verses 7 to 8, we have the enduring fight. Again, understanding that I have to persevere. There is a life of struggle, but through that life of struggle, I grow in virtues and hopefully attain the kingdom. And keeping the faith is important and not losing hope in that. That's fine. I'm more worried about that than the phone, but who cares? And lastly, being the light. We are called to be a light of the world, salt of the earth, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. So, sorry, media team, but we'll just carry on. So that is our purpose. Our purpose should be, in everything that we do, rooted in Christian, Coptic Orthodox, if you want to be very specific, perspective. I have to work as an authentic Christian with intention and desire for that purpose. Because if my purpose isn't something that I desire, then it's not my purpose. If I don't want to be loving, then how can that be my purpose? If I don't agree with it, then it can't be a purpose for me. If I don't want to endure and persevere, then that's not a purpose. Because again, I'm not aligning myself with it. A purpose should be something that you want to and choose to align yourself with. So if we're choosing to align ourselves with Christian morals, Christian principles, then these are the bedrock that we go for. With that then comes our vision, setting the future state. It's taking the today and moving it a year down the line, 5, 10, 30 years, God give you long lives, 50 years plus. What do I want to do? Where do I want to be? Who do I want to become? Couple of things, or four things really. Dream with God. See what he desires for us. Like, nothing is beyond him to do in our lives. Nothing is impossible for him. And if we have him supporting us, as we read in, I think it's Philippians, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can literally have anything that I desire if I'm dreaming, and that dreaming is aligned to God's values and kind of will for my life. Defining or position. Again, I need to have clear tasks in my life. We're going to come onto a task list, and I love a to-do list and all of that. But when you come to set your goal, set your vision, mission, purpose, whatever, it has to be precise. I need to, by the end of the year, have read the Bible front to back. Precise. There is no ambiguity to it. It's time bound. It's something that I can achieve because it's over a full year. And it's relevant to me, because if I don't read the Bible, then how can I say I'm a Christian? By 2 years' time, I want to have done a master's degree. Is it relevant for me? No. Is it time bound? Yes, it's got a 2 year. But is it achievable? Maybe not, because I haven't even applied for any master's program. So how can I do that in 2 years' time? So as we see, there has to be precision in what we're doing to make it achievable in our day-to-day lives. Aligning it with our purpose, we've covered that. Should all be Christian and Christ-centered and anchored in our faith, as you can see on the bottom right. Then we come on to kind of the practical questions that you can ask yourself when doing all of this. Where do I want to be in 5, 10, 20 years' time? Who do I want to become? What does it look like when I achieve this? Will I be happy in achieving this? Will it have actually made me a better person? Or am I achieving it or setting it as a goal for myself because someone else has done it and I want to just play catch up to other people? Everything should be about me. So if it's not something that works in my future, then why am I putting it as an action plan for me today? Similarly, does it come with specific problems? Am I geared to tackle those problems today? Am I able to overcome them? Do I need specific training? Do I have specific resources to help me, to guide me, to overcome? And am I ready to take that burden and that fight? Some things we can delay, other things we can't. So there are certain things in our life, maybe I don't need to do this right now, and therefore I don't need to worry about those problems or that issue. I can postpone it. Other things are more real time, and I have to consider them. How will this vision honor God and bless others? And finally, what steps, even small ones, can I identify today to take me to this future? All of it wrapped up: goals, vision, strategy. Precise, actionable, relevant. One of the best passages about someone having a vision of what they wanted in the future and setting goals and achieving it, or enabling others to achieve it, is in the story of Nehemiah. Nehemiah and the Israelites were captured and exiled and away from Jerusalem, but they heard of the walls of Jerusalem being broken, so he had a vision. He wanted Jerusalem to be rebuilt. He wanted the walls of Jerusalem to be rebuilt, re-erected, and therefore people can go back to start worshipping in their homeland. That was his vision. This is what I want 5 years down the line. My goals, my purpose was to enable that. He saw the broken walls. He didn't just see ruins, but he saw an end goal. He saw a plan. And with that, he set the guys up across the tribes to go back and start rebuilding, setting them specific things which were relevant and actionable. For those who know the story, and I might be slightly incorrect in elements of it, he told them to build just in front of them. Don't worry about what's happening 5 meters down the road, around the corner or anything. Your field of vision, Your purpose is to just build your section in front of you and hope and anchored in faith that your neighbor will do the same, and so on and so forth. So then collectively, the whole walls will rebuild. Very measurable, very relevant to that person. You build in front of you, you yourself are protected. But then by protecting yourself and a neighbor protecting themselves and so on, the whole community is protected. So vision in practice from the Bible. So a lot of what we're saying, although might sound corporate, might sound worldly, there are practical things from the Bible that we can take that have done it, and then the world is playing catch up. A lot of what we see has already been done, has already been achieved. The world just puts a different spin on it and labels it like slightly different. But everything about advancement, about development, about growth, about achievements has and is in the Bible. Finally, on this one, if it works, mission. It's the action plan. What am I doing? How am I doing it? And who am I doing it for? Very simple. What, how, who? That is my mission. I need to have that as a foundation. I'll share these slides. We'll share some notes if anyone's interested in actually writing this stuff down. But in doing so, we're able to guide our goals, set our ambitions, and do that MVP of mission, vision, and purpose. One of my favorite verses is in Colossians 3:23, verses 23 and 24. Whatever you do, do it heartily or with joy, as to the Lord and not as to men, for you serve the Lord your God, and your inheritance comes from him. It's shortened here. There's an actual longer version. But in essence, when we're on this earth, yes, I might be working and getting a paycheck at the end of the day, but if I'm seeing my manager as Christ, if I'm treating them as I would any other person with love, integrity, care, respect, then I'm doing that to an image of Christ. My reward doesn't come from my manager. Yes, there might be a paycheck. Yes, there might be a bonus at the end of the year. But everything I do gives me a reward from God. My inheritance comes from him. Because as I leave this world, my name will be forgotten 6 months down the line, 10 years down the line. But my legacy and my inheritance is with God. And that's where I seek eternity. So in all that we've said so far, come on. Trust. No. I hate this new setup. There we go. Trusting the process. All of this might sound fluffy, out there. Can I really achieve it? Can I really do it? Yes, you have to trust the process and commit. And there has to be a direction. And I need to be dedicated to that direction or that plan. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. Proverbs 16:3, and 6 verses later, a man's heart plans his ways, but the Lord guides his steps. My direction needs to be aligned to God's. We pray daily through our Father, let thy will be done. Let's try and live it. In our 2026 version of our lives, let's put that as a bedrock. Thy will be done. Your direction, your vision, your plan for me is what I want enabled. I can set goals, I can set a vision, but I'm willing and obedient enough to allow it to change for your glory. Where you want me, not where I want me. That's where we are. So, I'm going to pause there before we go on to methods and approaches. Questions, comments, thoughts? I'm slightly blinded, so Mary, hand up. Yep.
Two things I really like. Somebody said before, if your dream does not scare you, it's not God's dream. Meaning, if my dream I can achieve it, think it's achievable, the bigger dream, not the little ones, the bigger dream at the end, if it's not big enough, that I would need God to help me to do it, then it's not a God-given dream. It needs to be يعني زي ما أنت قلت قبل إنه it needs to be dream big with God and sit with Him, and He will actually tell you the dreams He has in His heart. And the other thing that I absolutely believe, as Christians, we are the answer to other people's prayers. So each one of us created with a set of skills and a set of talents ربنا ادانا in order to be an answer to somebody's prayers. And the idea is that on God's heart, the day I die, a problem in the world should no longer exist. And that should help us a little bit when we come to do that. What God put in my heart or my passions and stuff like that, when I'm doing this, I'm like, it will help me with my purpose. And no, I'm going to do that.
We're coming on to that one perfectly. Nice segue. Any other questions, thoughts, comments? Clarifications are key before we get into the next stage. Helena.
What's your view on consistency?
My view on consistency is it's necessary. A lot of what I've done here, and the reason why it hasn't worked for me personally at times, is I do it, then put it on a shelf, and then hope that by writing it down or doing whatever, it's going to dramatically change my life and I'm going to do a 180 and things are going to be better. No, with everything about personal development, spiritual development, relational development, there has to be consistency. I can't do it one day, stop for 6 months, and then hope that I'm going to be better. There has to be a weekly, monthly, semi-annual, repetitive cycle that I'm going through to build upon. Because if I'm not doing that, then what I've built upon, or if I started the year, 6 months down the line, I'm not necessarily in the same place. So I have to restart everything if I'm not keeping the momentum going. So consistency is very key. How frequent, that's for you to decide. Some people prefer daily consistency. Others in certain goals, certain achievements, or certain objectives need it monthly. It could be a semi-annual. So it's very much tailorable to each individual person and the situation. But there has to be a stop and a checkpoint and a reevaluate. I have to have that cycle of consistency, cycle of repeat, or else I'm not gonna know what the next step is, how to advance, how to grow, how to move forward. Yeah? Any other questions? Okay. Some of you have seen this one so many times, so apologies. Ikigai. This is a slightly different version of Ikigai. The other version has 4 circles. Hands up and I'm going to be very patronizing here. Who knows what a Venn diagram is and how to read it? Hands up if you don't. If you do, then I'm going to bypass one person. Basically, circles overlapping, where they overlap, there's common themes, common actions, common kind of ideas or ideology. The more overlap there is, the more things are consistent. And ultimately, as we get into the middle section, not very clear here on the screen, apologies, is the ultimate goal where all your circles are connected. Ikigai, for those who've heard me, I think I've done this talk about 4 times now. It's a Japanese concept. I learned it at work. It's about finding your purpose. If you look at it, it's a framework to say, okay, in my life and in my society or in my community, what do I do? What is needed? And how can I blend the two together? So as you can see, is what the world needs in the top. What am I good at in the bottom left or right for you guys? And what do I love? What the world needs and what I love should be seen as my mission. World needs it. I love doing it. Therefore, that should be what I want to do and provide out. That is my mission statement. What the world needs and what am I good at is my vocation. I can get paid for it. Someone needs an accountant. I'm good with numbers. I can get paid. Vocation, accountancy. Content creator, digital designer, artist, whatever. Whatever the world needs and you can get paid for is seen as your vocation. What you love and what you're good at is your passion. So you might blend different things, and if I'll give you pieces of paper in a bit. You can start drawing these circles and writing things in them and figuring out, okay, am I aligned to any of these? The more you find commonality, and the more you find commonality across all three, is then your ikigai, or your life's mission statement or mission purpose, where you're good at what you can do, you're getting paid for it, and society at large needs it. So how can I, in my day-to-day life, achieve all of this? We build habits around the chosen path. We remove distractions and focus on just these core attributes. We strengthen our skills. We look at new training to build us into different things. So if I know society needs certain things, if I don't have the skills for it, why don't I build those skills? Then it could be something that I'm good at. So I'm building my skill set to become good at it, to provide it to society, and therefore make it my vocation. If I'm passionate about art or singing, can I earn money off the back of it? And if I can, then is it something that I can also put out into society, into the world at large, because the world needs it, values it, requires it? Yes, and then I've got an ikigai. So, any questions around ikigai? Okay. Next one, I'm going to hand out pieces of paper. This is a takeaway homework for you guys. I'll take Mary as an assistant. If you can take one, pass them around. Again, some of you may have seen this in day-to-day life. You might have done it at school, college, or one of the conferences, I think a few years back. It is what is called the Wheel of Life. Basically, big circle, different branches coming out. And on each of the branches, you label a different aspect of your life. The example that you guys have is the same one on the screen, but your branches can be very different and catered to you. They normally cover health and fitness, my career, my finances, family, romance and personal interrelationships, personal growth, social and recreation, faith and like spirituality. And on each of those lines, as you can see, you start from the center with 0 and then all the way out to number 10. The benefit of this is it allows us to do snapshot analysis and evolution or trending of it. So what we do is, if you can see here, first thing is you choose the categories. What branches on the circle do you want? You can use the preset ones. You can write individual ones that are relevant to yourself. And then you rate each area. Where am I in this category? On a scale of 1 to 10. Preferably 1 to 10 because there's more options. Don't do a 1 to 5 because then you'll think everything is sort of equal. The more granular you can go in the scoring, the better. And that helps us really deep dive and assess, okay, where am I in this? So you rate each one, and then depending on how you want to do it, you can color in the quadrant or the little segment of the circle, or you can just draw and connect all the dots. Once you've connected all the dots, you can analyze the shape, or you should analyze the shape really. If it's a circle that is smooth, then hopefully your life is well balanced. You've got equilibrium. Nothing is too time consuming or too burdensome, or nothing is too little that I'm forgetting about it. I have equality in my life. Reality is that will never be the case. If you have equality and you've got a full circle, just make sure it's on the outer rim of the 8s, the 9s, and the 10s, not an inner circle of 1s and 4s or something. Don't have your circle 1 and 4 because then you're not really achieving the full potential on any of these. But even if I'm not smooth and circular, the plotting of it allows me to see, okay, what is taking focus in my life today? Is my family priority a 9, but I'm only achieving a 4? And therefore I have work to do and I can set goals and milestones to work on it. Is my spiritual a 3, but I need it at a 5 for the next year before going up to a 9 or a 10? Same with my career, same with my kind of finances. Where do I want? So there's 3 lines that we should draw. One is your target line, or where you want to be on all of these aspects. And that's where you set your goal. So it's slightly back to front. Set your goals. What is 10 in each of these branches? So set that goal. Set the outer limit of where you want your circles to be. And then plot your current day. Take this evening, take the next month as we go into the new year, and review and say, okay, my family, I'm a 4. My friendships, I'm a 6. My faith or my spiritual life is a 8, hopefully, or a 9. And so on, and plot my current day. Keep the piece of paper, 6 months, or back to Helana's point about consistency. Maybe at every month or every quarter or every 6 months or even next year, this time, review that piece of paper and say, okay, where am I now? Am I better in any of these, and have I closed the gap between where I was and the target? Or have I still got a void and I still need to do more work? Because in doing so, I can set goals, choose 1 or 2, 3 focus areas that I'm going to work on over the next month or so to bring that line up to where I need it to be, or bring it down. If I drew my circle, again, I haven't done this. I wanted to do live examples, but I did a different one for you tonight. If I were to draw my circle, family would be a 4, work would be a 10. And that's not because I've achieved what I want in work, but my scale that I'm using is around time and effort that I'm putting into it, or what is taking me away. So my metrics of going 0 to 10 is how much time, how much brain capacity or effort am I putting into that relationship, that aspect of my life. So work consumes me. So it will be a 9 or a 10. Faith might be a 5, hovering average. Family will be a 2. I don't spend enough time with my parents. I don't see my brother and his wife and my nephews and nieces enough. I don't have a great relationship with my cousins. So it will be a 2 or a 3. So my circle will be not circular at all. There's no balance. And therefore, I need to bring my work and baseline it at maybe a 7. Take a step back. Should I be doing all of these extra hours? Is it adding any value? Is it where I want to be? Because if I'm reducing my work, then hopefully in that time that I'm creating or claiming back, I can put into my family life, my friendships, my relationships, and whatever. So it's a very nice and helpful way to allow us to look at our lives, check whether we're balanced. If we are overexerting in one element, we can calm it down. If we're not, we can uplift it.
What if, like, you're working those extra hours, okay, in order for you to be there for friends, like if they have wedding, birthdays, and stuff like that, like all these things cost money, life costs money, and in order to be there for the friends or to be for those events, you need that money. So that 10, how do you balance? Because it's not just like I'm just consuming that work. I'm full of stuff. I'm doing that because there is another objective that I'm using that. So how does that work with the rating?
I think, yeah, we have to look at things, yes, in the verticals of family, friendships, work, spiritual, but there's also the holistic view. If I know that work is a means to an end to allow me to get a paycheck, to be able to serve and do my tithes and do community work or fly out for my friends' weddings and whatever, then it's fine. Because then I'm able to balance it and say, look, it might be consuming, but it's a valid consumption of my time because it's a feeder or a gateway to achieving other goals, other objectives in my life. But if what I'm doing doesn't work or doesn't lead to an objective or a goal or support one of the other objectives or goals that I have, then it's of little value or of no value really. So to that point, if I'm doing overtime because I need the extra hours and the extra pay, then that's fine. It's a short-term thing, hopefully, that allows me to cover something in the near future. But if it's a persistent thing that is affecting my relationships, affecting my family, affecting my service, affecting my spiritual life, then that's where I need to draw the line. If it's supporting, then maybe it's not as bad, but that's where the personal reflection comes in. Sometimes we will sugarcoat it and say, yeah, I'm working all of these hours because, like you said, I fly out. I'm going all to these weddings, I'm buying presents and whatever. I'm giving myself an excuse by saying that. Do my friends need me to buy them presents and be at all of these weddings? Or will they understand if I miss it? Am I working the extra hours and putting so much effort in because I'm running away from something else and trying to avoid another aspect of my life? Therefore, I'm throwing my time into this and pretending it's a activity that's a feeder for something else? Or am I really going to be honest with myself and say, look, I'm working all of these hours because I don't want to be at home and I don't want to be with family or friends, and therefore I'm claiming it's allowing me to save up or whatever, but in reality it's a distraction. So we have to, in all of these self-reflections, be really precise. As we go back to the very start, that 23andMe, where you're looking at your genetics don't lie. If you have something in your DNA that says you could be susceptible to cancer or you have an allergy and all of that, it is rooted in you. You can't change it. So we have to be true with ourselves, just like our DNA tells us who we are in our character from the purest sense. When we're doing all of these self-reflections, well, I need to be as truthful and as honest and as cutthroat with myself rather than trying to sugarcoat it. Why am I lying to myself? Why am I hiding true reality from what I'm doing? Does that help answer? Long-winded answer, but hopefully it covers it. Any other questions on the wheel of life? Max. That is Max, right?
Yeah.
Go.
What are the benefits of choosing to define your scale of 1 to 10 through time and effort rather than achievements? Because I'm looking at a few of these and I spend small amounts of time and effort on some of them, but I've achieved them in the past, so now they're kind of like cruising mode, you know? So it doesn't take up much time, but I would still rank it like a 7 or an 8.
Your scale, absolutely right. Your scale needs to be consistent across all quadrants. So if all the pillars are time and effort, then yes, time and effort might be low. Sorry. They've changed the batteries in the clock. Where was I? Sorry. Time and effort. It's pretty much telling me to hurry up and wind this down. Time and effort. So the verticals or the lines should be consistent. Time and effort, although my time and effort might be low, then maybe I have a second wheel that tells me achievements. So depending on what you want, for me, achievements isn't necessarily easy because what do I really want to achieve? I haven't done that assessment of I want to achieve ABC in my work or ABC in my family life or whatever. Some things you can't necessarily have clear defined achievements in. So time and effort could be a better way. But you're right. If it's easier to do time and achievements because you've done it and you're at an 8 or a 9 and it takes minimal effort from you, then great. Your wheel could be a bit more different. So balance it however you feel, but just try to use the same scale across all. I don't know if that answered. Any other questions? Okay. This one, life minimalism. This is where real world examples come into play. Okay. I want to keep the screen open, but also this doesn't fall over. I love a post-it note if you can't tell. Hiding the bottom section, so let me go that way. So life minimalism, or for those who have read the book called Essentialism, all of this is about decluttering our life. We have so much going on in our heads, in our lives, that, as I mentioned, we're somewhat overwhelmed of choice, overwhelmed with decisions, and somewhat always running from one thing to another always in a rush and not being able to slow down and enjoy life for what it is, the beauty, the purpose, and the joy that comes with it. So the core idea is less is better. I don't need to have 1,000,001 things on my to-do list to say I'm achieving life. I can achieve life with 5 things. Dependent on the grace that you have and the ability that God's given you and the talents, you might be able to do more than other people, but what you're able to do doesn't take away from what other people are able to do. So less genuinely is better. For some people, your less might be 5 items, another person's might be 15 items. It depends. But we should be able to rationalize and focus on core things. We have to be ruthless and cutthroat. Again, when we're doing self-development or self-planning, especially as we go into the new year, and we're trying to improve, we need to stop lying to ourselves at times, sugarcoating the reality, and seeing it for what it is. And therefore, ruthless elimination is key to this. And then finally, we then ultimately focus our energy on what is left. So how you do this in practice, you can use the Miki method, or you can do whatever works for you. Different colors, different categories of life. But this literally was a 5-minute dump of what I've got in my head right now. Red or pink here is family and friends. So you can see something in my to-do list or my thought process is family, health, upcoming weddings, friends and relationships. More friends are now having babies, so attendance of baptisms and baby showers and all of that. What about my finances? What about my friends who are in America or Australia? Do I want to go and visit them and therefore I need to plan for travel? All of these are consuming my mind. Too much. Then you add onto it service and church. Stuff that I do with Sayyidina, the conferences, the outreach, attending liturgy, compassion, the Monday meeting, the Wednesday meeting, sharing, personal Ejbia prayer, readings, general admin that we do across the ministries, Bible reading, quiet time. The list could be endless. All of this is taking time of my diary, of my headspace and energy. And finally, on the left or right, whichever way you're looking at it, work and professional. So do I want to switch companies? I've been saying it for the last 5 years. I haven't actually done anything about it. Is 2026 the year that I finally leave the company and go to a different one? Do I want to look at a relocation? Do I want to leave the UK and go abroad, like some of our friends and brothers and sisters have? Do I want to go a different place in the UK, move up to London permanently? Do I want to go abroad? Relocation is generally something that I keep considering and evaluating. Progression. Where am I in my current role? Do I want to advance? Do I want to get a promotion? Do I want something different? What am I doing in my current role today? What are my current to-do lists? The next 6 weeks, we are in budgeting season at work. So I'm on daily calls for 3 hours every day, planning, arguing with people, seeing what their projects are for next year, what we can and can't do, how much funding they need. That's a lot of time taken away. And then part of me was thinking, okay, let's throw into it. Do I want to do a master's? Don't even know what in, but let's throw it. Might as well. There's no point. This is life. If you were to do this, what are the things that are genuinely running through your head at any point in time? Sit down. I like it visual, and this is where the post-it notes help. And then you can say, look, realistically, that's not going to happen. Take it, chuck it, throw it away. And then you purposefully stop thinking about it. As you go through and you start taking things off, so I'm not going to take off Bible, but I can take off this one because I know this project that I'm working on is coming to an end at the end of December. So 2026, not going to happen. Don't need to think about it. To save people the headache, maybe I won't relocate. Let's take it off. Baptisms, important, but I don't need to attend. Baby showers, again, irrelevant. That's not going to be a priority for next year. Weddings, I'm never going to take that off, so We're not going to argue that. Travel, I'm never going to take off. I know I've stopped attending sharing, and I need to see what I'm going to do there, but I feel long-term, my active role in sharing is coming to an end. Liturgy shouldn't come off. So I need to be more active in my liturgical life, being a deacon and actually going in early and getting dressed as a deacon, not attending just before the gospel and standing behind the pillar or next to the pillar where I normally stand. Wednesday meeting, I'm not going to take off. Health, I need to improve, so maybe I can't. But maybe new firm. Next year is not the year for me to start thinking about moving jobs. So take it off. And as you can see, by doing a visual and ending up with hopefully a smaller list, you're then able to focus your plans for next year. Set goals on these ones. If you were to set goals without doing this, how many goals are you really going to be setting and trying to achieve in the course of a year? So we're sort of going back to front, but doing the life decluttering or the essentialism approach, where I'm only focusing on core things that are of value, of purpose, that are going to impact me, then I can set goals and put a vision for it. I hope that kind of clarifies it, because the more you do, the more ruthless you can be. But I will say there have to be at least 3 minimums. Your spiritual life, that has to be something on this list. You should never take it away. Whether that's quiet time, deep Bible reading, there has to be an element of spiritual. Not service. Personal, spiritual item on the list. I'm not going to say that you have to have a work or a professional one on it, but you do need one for your health. The more I grow, the more I realize I have forgotten about my health, and therefore maybe it's too late to play catch up, or I need to actually end up going to the gym, but I know I never will do that. So if you ever see me in the gym, that's hell has frozen over kind of thing. But health is an important thing. And family. Family, friendships are what keep us grounded. So as a bare minimum, if you were going to do this life essentialism or life decluttering, you should always have those things on the list at the end of the takeaways and the cutouts. Family, faith, health. Those 3 we can't and shouldn't play with, but in doing so, you're able to rationalize and then create space. Headspace to process, time to actually achieve and live life rather than running around and doing 50 million things. So whilst I take this away, you guys can read the screen, bringing it all together. So we have seen what mission, vision, and purpose are, which is defining the direction, why we exist, where we're going, and how we'll get there. In doing so, we're able to help with our ikigai, finding what society needs, how I can be paid for it, and what I love doing. We're trying to balance our life and seeing what priorities there are. Ultimately, there should be an element of throwing away things that are of no value to me, or of need. Going into 2026, we should be able or look to start from a simplified, rationalized landscape. Let's not take all the baggage with us, all the crazy, all the intensity that has happened. Let's try and enter 2026 both spiritually clean and starting afresh, but also in our social and academic lives improved. So pause and reflect over the next month. Use December. The evenings are long. Yes, we might be watching, like I am, tons of Netflix Christmas rom-coms. There's a couple of good ones out there for the new season. I can tell you later. But take the coming weeks as we go into Christmas and the Nativity and the New Year as a chance to pause and reflect. Gain clarity on what I was or who I was and where I want to be and what do I need to do. And then we can start charting our path. I'm gonna pause, but gonna conclude on one thing. A lot of this stuff is hard to do without accountability. So if you are doing the Wheel of Life, if you are doing the Life Essentialism, or you want to do your Ikigai, maybe the Wheel of Life is the easiest one, but speak to me after. And I have an app for those who wonder how I managed to send out everything on a kind of time-stamped thing. I schedule 95% of my messages going out. So if you want, I can add you on a scheduled message in 6 months' time to remind you to do a review of your Wheel of Life. And just nudge you to say, you did this in January, where are you now on your goal? And you can tell me what to write, or it can be a generic thing. June 30th, reminder to refresh your Wheel of Life. August 29th, reminder to refresh your Wheel of Life, and so on. So as you go through the year, I will commit to you guys to scheduling messages that go out to you just to remind you. Whether you act upon it, that's up to you. But it's that reminder that we have that, as Helena mentioned, consistency. This is all great that we're saying it tonight. You're going to go home, likely forget about it. So maybe by having an automated reminder message, you are able to achieve in the next year what you set as goals and ambitions. If you don't want me sending it, you can schedule your own reminders on Outlook, Gmail, whatever calendar you use. But if it's coming externally, it might be a better nudge that you can't ignore or forget about. With that, I'm going to pause, open up for any questions. I'll switch on the lights, so just caution your eyes. Questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, issues, clarifications, anything? Hi, Sam. Nothing?
Okay.
Yes.
Would it be easier to do that one for this one? Because I feel like they're interconnected.
Yes and no. That one allows me to take action and say, okay, where am I focusing? But I need to do this one to recognize how much time and effort I'm doing on the bars. Because I might think, oh, I've only got 4 things on my work one, therefore at work, it's not taking too much time or too much effort. So I might rank it low. So the two do go hand in hand, and say, okay, how can I, with the volume of what I've got, where do I rank it? Because in ultimately doing the Wheel of Life, I need to know what I've got on anyway. So I need to know how much I'm doing, what am I doing, where am I going, and who for, to be able to rank it. So maybe do that one first, and then the Wheel of Life. But like I said, how you approach this is very dependent on your mindset, your vision setting. So what works for me may not necessarily be the right approach for you. I've always found, personally, when I feel overwhelmed, this was probably 6 weeks ago. When you open up your internet and you've got like 50, 60 tabs open and you feel your PC or your phone lagging, that's literally my head at times. I feel like I've got so many tabs open at one time that I was having a conversation and I kept stuttering because I didn't know what am I talking about, who was I talking to. So it took like a good half an hour for me to mentally go through all of those tabs and write post-it notes and to-do lists and task lists. And then I was then able to say, okay, this is literally everything that I need to do. How achievable is it? Can I wind it down? Can I give it to someone else? Do I need to be doing it in the first place? So for me, writing it down, seeing it on a piece of paper, gets it out from the mental and puts it into a real world that I can then say, look, this is irrelevant. Why am I consuming time and energy and mental space for it? Writing things for me helps. Other people, they want to do it on a laptop or a tablet or whatever. Others are just happy thought process only with no writing. So different things, different people, whatever works for you, as long as you're doing something to plan, I don't care how you do it. You can even ignore the free options of Ikigai, Wheel of Life, and decluttering if you want, and you've got a different one. Work? There was a fourth one, if you're interested in doing it. I wouldn't recommend it at times. It's very much corporate. It's called stakeholder analysis. Basically, actually, I might have it on the screen. Bear with me. And he broke it? Nope. Let me switch. How can I do it from screen? Purple dot is me. These were the different kind of centers of my life. So in the colored post-it notes, each one was a different one. So that was like the reds, that was the blue post-it note, that was a green post-it note, but obviously colors change. And within each of those different themes were things consuming my mind. This I did 5 years ago. It's not stakeholder analysis. This is more about life decluttering and seeing everything visually about what you've got on, what is taking your time. But you can flip it around and do stakeholder analysis and say, that's me. That's my family relationships. The further they are away from me, either they are less important to me. So if I have boxes or circles far from the center, it's of little value, therefore I don't need to worry about them as much, and therefore I don't need to consume myself mentally with planning, arranging, relational maintenance. The closer they are to me, the more time and effort I have to invest in them, or I want to invest in them. So by bringing my relationships into this mix, or my family, my work, my social life, the closer to the center, the more important they are to me, and therefore I have to be working on them. The further away they are, the less important, but they're still in the realm of existence and awareness. If you were to do this on a piece of paper, a circle can only have so many circles close to it without overlapping, without kind of conflicting. So it sort of forces you to say, what is in your inner circle? What is the closest thing that you want to manage and maintain? And then as you go further out of the center, you can add more things, but they're of lesser importance, of lesser value. So again, closer, the more important, and the further away, less important. So stakeholder analysis or stakeholder management allows us to see, again, time and effort and importance in my life. I should be moving certain things out and bringing certain things closer, and then taking snapshots of this over the years allows you to see how you've evolved or where your relationships have evolved. So that was a completely different one that you could also do. If you want websites that can do your visualizations like this, let me know and I'll send you stuff. All of this is digital stuff. You just type in all the stuff and it creates charts for you. Any other questions, comments? Eyes again. I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think it's achievable? You can nod. I don't need a verbal answer. You can nod or shake your head if you think this is something that can be done and is of value. You agree it's of value?
Great value. It's just, I think, deciding to sit down, to face your own self. I think the hardest thing is not, for me, it's not the exercise itself. It's the sitting with yourself to face the reality, what it is, and where you are and where you want to go. It's that effort and that time to enter perspective and to self-reflect. I think that's like the most effort for the challenge.
One thing I found, I once shared this with my father of confession, the life decluttering, and he saw my post-its. He said, take out, take out, take out, take out. And he was ruthless with me. My father of confession kind of helped me from an external viewpoint say, why are you spending so much time on this? And he's able to hold that mirror up to you and say your time and effort is in the wrong area. Your focus is misaligned. So maybe it needs a father of confession, an older sibling, a close friend who you can trust and value their input, who is going to be brutally honest and blunt with you, but with love. Emphasis with love. I can be brutally honest and with anyone, but is it coming from a nurturing, loving perspective to want to help this person improve is a different thing. So if you can't do it internally, maybe bring someone in on that journey, and therefore you can both hold each other accountable as you go through it. I'm going to close there. So thank you for your time. I'm going to